Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Radha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Radha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Radha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapte Kanchan Gorangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chev Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudire. बोलो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की बोलो श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna everyone.
Jai. Hello Nisha. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Rina ji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna everyone.
Hello Prem sir. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Gajendra bhai.
शुरू करते हैं. तो जैसा कि आप लोग जानते हैं अपन श्रीमद् भागवतम वी आर ऑन द 8th स्कंद, या which is about the withdrawal of the cosmic creations. हम लोग 8वें स्कंद पर हैं और जैसा कि you can see टोटल 12 स्कंद है. So we are slightly more than halfway through. Yeah, slowly and slowly we are getting there, right? 10th canto is the important, most important aspect of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's mentioned that you have to be through the 9th cantos to really be able to even be eligible to read canto 10. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But as you know, we are reading canto 8. And how many shloks are there in Srimad Bhagavatam? 18,000. Yeah, 18,000 shloks in Srimad Bhagavatam with 332 adhyayas. We are on canto 8 and we completed adhyay 3 last week. And that was about Gajendra, the king of the elephants, his prayers of surrender. Yeah, जैसा कि हमें पता है गजेंद्र मोक्ष की स्टोरी, राइट? कैसे मगरमच्छ holds Gajendra. They fight for 1,000 years, Sahasra years, and then finally the king of the elephant Gajendra gives up and he surrenders unto Lord Vishnu. He does prayers of Lord Krishna. We read those beautiful, blissful prayers, very nice prayers, and we are also going to listen to the whole prayer at the end of the session, right? And then Supreme Lord appears and then he takes him out of the clutches of Magarmach. And ऐसा बोल रहे हैं कि दोनों का उद्धार हो जाता है, गजेंद्र मोक्ष as well as मगरमच्छ, दोनों का उद्धार हो जाता है भगवान के हाथों. And कैसे होता है, पिछले जन्म में क्या थे, who was Gajendra in the previous birth, who was the Magarmach? I think that's what we are going to read in the chapter 4. And this, of course, talks about Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. So we'll start reading the Adhyaya 4. Rajashri ji?
Shri Shuk Uvac Tada Devarshi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purogamaha Mumuchaha Kusuma Saram Shansatam Karma Tadvare. Shri Sukdeva Goswami said, when the Lord delivered Gajendra, king of the elephants, all the demigods, sages, and Gandharvas, headed by the Brahma and Shiva, praised this activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and showered flowers upon both the Lord and Gajendra.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So Sri
Hare
Shukdev
Krishna.
Goswami ji, of course, is reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, and whom is he reciting to?
Parikshit Maharaj.
Parikshit Maharaj, right? Shukdev Goswami ji, Parikshit Maharaj ko puri Bhagavatam suna rahe hain. And Parikshit Maharaj wanted to know more. As you remember, we are reading about Manu Mantras, and we are reading about the fourth Manu, Tamsa Manu, right? And during that, the Gajendra Moksha happens. Parikshit Maharaj wants to know more about it. That's what Sukdev Goswami is explaining to Parikshit Maharaj. And it's mentioned that when Lord Vishnu appeared on his Garud and took care of the Magarmach, right? So at that point, it says that Dev, Rishi, Gandharva, right? So all the Devtas, Rishis, all the Gandharvas, and Brahma, Ishan, Purogama, like including Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all the Devtas, yeah, they Mumucha Kusum Asaram, that is, they showered flowers upon both the Lord and the Gajendra. Yeah, and just read it, Prem sir.
It is evident from this chapter that great sages like Devala Rishi, Narad Muni, and Agastya Muni will sometimes curse someone. The curse of such a personality, however, is in fact a benediction. Both the crocodile who had been a Gandharva in his previous life and Gajendra who had been a king named Indradyumna were cursed. But both of them benefited. Indradyumna in his birth as an elephant attained salvation and became a personal associate of the Lord in Vaikuntha. And the crocodile regained his status as a Gandharva. We find evidence in many places that the curse of a great saint or devotee is not a curse but a benediction. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what is mentioned here is like Deval Rishi was a great Rishi. He's the one who gave curse to a Gandharv, and we'll read the story about that. And that Gandharv, he became crocodile. Yeah. And then Agastya Muni, you all would have heard about Agastya Muni, right? He had cursed the king named Indradyumna. Yeah. Indradyumna was the king, and he was cursed by Agastya Muni to be born as an elephant. Yeah. But what is really being mentioned here is even those rishis cursed the Gandharv and the king Indradyumna, it was good for them because finally what happened is after that birth, they attained salvation. Yeah, they attained the moksha. We'll continue reading this. Nisha?
नेदुर्दुन्दुभयो दिव्या गन्धर्वा न नृतुर्जगु ऋषयश्चारणाः सिद्धास्तुष्टुवः पुरुषोत्तमम्. There was a beating of kettle drums in the heavenly planets. The inhabitants of Gandharvalok began to dance and sing, while great sages and the inhabitants of Charanlok and Siddhalok offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Purushottam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Purushottam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he got Gajendra moksha, he got Gajendra delivered, right? Then all the rishis, yeah, Risaya Charana hai. So there is a Charan lok, there is a Siddha lok, right? There are so many different types of loks, right? But overall there are 14 loks. But above the Bhulok, and as we are reading about Gandharva lok, about the Gandharvas, about the Charan lok, the Siddhas, right? Apsaras, and the Devtas, they all are in the loks above the Bhulok, yeah, above the Prithvi lok. And they all offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yeah, Purushottam. Rinaji?
यह असो ग्राहं स वै सद्यः परमाश्चर्यरूपधृका मुक्तो देवलशापेन हुहुर्गन्धर्वसत्तमः प्रणम्य शिरसाधीशमुत्तमश्लोकमव्यवाम् अगायत यशोधाम कीर्तेन्य गुणसत्कथम्. The best of the Gandharvas, King Huhu, having been cursed by Devala Muni, had become a crocodile. Now, having been delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he assumed a very beautiful form as a Gandharva. Understanding by whose mercy this had happened, he immediately offered his respectful obeisances with his head and began chanting prayers just suitable for the Transcendental Lord, the Supreme Saint Eternal, who is worshipped by the choicest verses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So as we can see, the best of the Gandharvas whose king who was cursed by Deval Muni. Yeah, and that's why he became a crocodile. But then as soon as he realized that he also has been delivered and he became again took back his form as a Gandharv, he offered the prayers to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's read this. Hare Krishna, Mayur.
The story of how the Gandharv had become a crocodile will be described later. The curse by which the Gandharv took this position was actually a blessing, not a curse. One should not be displeased when a saintly person curses someone, for his curse indirectly is a blessing. The Gandharv had the mentality of an inhabitant of the celestial planetary system, and for him to become an associate of the Supreme Lord would have taken millions of long years. However, because he was cursed by Devala Rishi, he became a crocodile and in only one life was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face and be promoted to the spiritual world to become one of Lord's associates. Similarly, Gajendra was also delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he was freed from the curse of Agastya Muni. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ajay.
So अनिकम्पित ईशेन परिक्रम्य प्रणम्य तम लोकस्य पश्यतो लोकम स्वगान मुक्त kilvishah. Having been favored by the causeless mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead, and having regained his original form, King Huhus circumambulated the Lord and offered his obeisances. Then, in the presence of all the demigods, headed by Brahma, he returned to Gandharvalok. He had been freed from all his sinful reactions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So see how crocodile, after he was killed by Lord Vishnu, he returned to Gandharva Lord and got freed from all his sinful reactions. Rinaji?
Gajendra Bhagavat se Sharda Vimukto Agyan Bandhanat Prapto Bhagavatam Rupam Pita Vasa Chaturbhuja. Because Gajendra, king of the elephants, had been touched directly by the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was immediately freed of all material ignorance and bondage. Thus, he received the salvation of Sarupya Mukti, in which he achieved the same bodily features as the Lord, being dressed in yellow garments and possessing 4 hands. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. You know what is being mentioned here is Gajendra, because he was delivered by Lord Vishnu himself, he got a Sarupya Mukti as Mukti, right? And what is the Sarupya Mukti? Is in which he achieves the same bodily features as the Lord himself. And what are those bodily features? Right? Pitavasa Chaturbhuja. Yeah? Dressed in the yellow garments, possessing 4 hands, and even having the Shankh, Chakra, and Gada, all that. Yeah? So that's the Bhagavad Gita. Because he was touched by the Lord himself, what happened? Vimukto Agyan Bandhana. Yeah, he got freed from all Agyan and all the Bandhan. All material ignorance and bondage he was freed from and got the moksha. Prem, sir?
If one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by having his gross body touched by the Lord, his body turns into a spiritual body and he can go back home, back to Godhead. Gajendra assumed a spiritual body when his body was touched by the Lord. Similarly, Dhruva Maharaj assumed his spiritual body in this way. Archana Paddhati, daily worship of the Archana Paddhati, daily worship of the deity, provides an opportunity to touch the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus it enables one to be fortunate enough to get a spiritual body and go back to Godhead. Not only by touching the body of the Supreme Lord, but simply by hearing about his pastimes, chanting his glories, and touching his feet and offering worship. In other words, by serving the Lord somehow or other, one is purified of material contamination. This is the result of touching the Supreme Lord. One who is a pure devotee, Anya Lasita Sunyam, who acts according to the Shastra and the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, certainly becomes purified. Like Gajendra, he assumes a spiritual body and returns home back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what is mentioned is by serving the Lord somehow or other. And how do you serve the Lord, right? By doing the devotional service or by just constantly serving, one is purified of material contamination, right? And similarly, Gajendra Moksha, he assumes a spiritual body and returns home back to Godhead. Rajashri?
सर्वे पूर्वं बुध राजा पांड्यो द्रविड़ सत्तमः इंद्रद्युम्न इति ख्यातो विष्णुव्रतपरायणः. This Gajendra had formerly been a Vaishnava and the king of country known as Pandya, which is in the province of Dravida, South India. In his previous life, he was known as Indradyumna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So now, who was Gajendra? Right? Who was this king of elephant in this life is what is being described. Right? So it's mentioned he was the Indradyumna Maharaj and Vishnu Vrat Parayana. Right? He was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Yeah, it says Dravid Satam is in the South India. He was the king. Yeah, is what is being mentioned here. से एक धाराधन काल आत्मवान गृहीत मौन व्रत ईश्वरम हरिम जटाधर तापस आपलुतो अच्युतम समर्चयामास कुलाचलाश्रमः. Indrudhamna Maharaj retired from family life and went to the Malay hills, where he had a small cottage for his ashram. He wore matted locks on his head and always engaged in austerities. Once, while observing a vow of silence, he was fully engaged in the worship of the Lord and absorbed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Right? So that's the story of Indrudhamna Maharaj. Right? He left his family life. He went to the Malay hills, Ulachal Ashram. Ulachal Ashram is the Malaya hill from there. And of course, he had a Jatadhari, and he was Grihit Mon Vrat. So he took a Mon Vrat and totally engaged in the Ishwaram Hare. Right? So he was totally engaged in the Mon Vrat and totally devoted to the Hare. And this, Ajay?
यदिक्षया तत्र महायशा मुनिः समागमक्ष्मि श्रृंगणे परिश्रितः तं वीक्ष्य तूष्णीमकृत हृणान्धकं रहस्यपाशीनमिश्रकोशः. While Indradyumna Maharaj was engaged in ascetic meditation worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the great sage Agastya Muni arrived there, surrounded by his disciples. When the Muni saw that Maharaja Indradyumna, who was sitting in a secluded place, remained silent and did not follow the etiquette of offering him reception, he was very angry. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Indrudhamna Maharaj was in the Mon Vrat. Agastya Muni comes and he doesn't even move from his place. Agastya Muni gets very upset. You mentioned, Nisha.
तस्मा इमं शापमदाद साधुरयं दुरात्माकृतबुद्धिरद्य विप्रावमन्ता विशतां तमिस्त्रं यथा गजः स्तब्धमतिः स एव. Agastya Muni then spoke this curse against the king. The king Indradyumna is not at all gentle. Being low and uneducated, he has insulted a Brahmin. May we therefore enter the region of darkness and receive the dull, dumb body of an elephant. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So this is how Agastya Rishi curses Indradyumna Maharaj. Yeah? This purport, Mayur.
An elephant is very strong. It has a very big body and it can work very hard and eat a large quantity of food. But its intelligence is not at all commensurate with its size and strength. Thus, in spite of so much bodily strength, the elephant works as a menial servant for a human being. Agastya Muni thought it wise to curse the king to become an elephant because the powerful king did not receive Agastya Muni as one is obliged to receive a Brahman. Yet, although Agastya Muni cursed Maharaj Indrayuma to become an elephant, the curse was indirectly a benediction. For by undergoing one life as an elephant, Indrayuma Maharaj ended the reactions for all the sins of his previous life. Immediately after the expiry of the elephant's life, he was promoted to Vaikuntha Lok to become a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, in a body exactly like that of the Lord. This is called Sarupya Mukti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what is mentioned is even though Agastya Muni cursed him, right? It was good for Indradyumna Maharaj. Yeah, he took birth as an elephant, but then in one birth he got all his sins removed and went to the Vaikuntha Lok. Rinaji?
एवं शप्त्वा गतो अगस्त्यो भगवान् नृपसानुगः इन्द्रदुम्नेऽपि राजर्षिदृष्टं तदुपधारयन् आपन्नः कौञ्जरीं योनिमात्मस्मृतिविनाशिनीं हर्यर्चनानुभावेन यद्गजत्वेऽप्यनुस्मृतेः. Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, after Agastya Muni had thus cursed King Indradyumna, the Muni left that place along with his disciples. Since the king was a devotee, he accepted Agastya Muni's curse as welcome because it was the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although in his next life he got the body of an elephant, because of devotional service, he remembered how to worship and offer prayers to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So जैसा कि हम लोग पिछले श्लोक में पढ़ रहे थे पिछले अध्याय में, when Gajendra got exhausted and then he remembers his whole prayer, right? And he remembers his whole prayer because he was a devotee in his previous life, right? And then when the time came, he could remember the prayers for the Lord. Yeah. Rajashri?
एवं विमोक्ष युत्थपमब्जानाभ स्तेनापि पार्षद गतिं गमितेन युक्तः गन्धर्वसिद्ध विबुधे रूप गीयमान कर्मावृत स्वभवनं गरुडासनो गात. Upon delivering the king of the elephants from the clutches of the crocodile and from material existence, which resembles a crocodile, the Lord awarded him the status of Sarupa Mukti. In the presence of Gandharva, the Siddhas and the other demigods who were praising the Lord for his wonderful transcendental activities, the Lord, sitting on the back of his carrier, Garuda, returned to his all wonderful abode and took Gajendra with him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Garuda Asano Pradate. So Lord returned back to his abode. And a nice purport. So let's read this. Prem.
In this verse, the word vimoksha is significant. For a devotee, moksha or mukti, salvation, means getting the position of the Lord's associate. The impersonalists are satisfied to get the liberation or merging in the Brahman effulgence. But for a devotee, mukti, liberation, means not to merge in the effulgence of the Lord, but to be directly promoted to the Vaikuntha planets and to become associate of the Lord. In this regard, there is a relevant verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8. Tat te anupam susamik samano Punjana ev itma kritam vikam hidvak vaparbhir vidhan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade ya daya bhak. One who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, words, and body, and who always offers obeisances unto you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for liberation. A devotee who tolerates everything in this material world and patiently executes his devotional service can become Mukti Pade or Sa Daya Bhak, a bona fide candidate for liberation. The word Daya Bhak refers to a hereditary right to the Lord's mercy. A devotee must simply engage in devotional service, not caring about material situations. Then he automatically becomes a rightful candidate for promotion to Vaikuntha Loka. The devotee who renders unalloyed service to the Lord gets the right to be promoted to Vaikuntha Loka, just as the son inherits his property of his father. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mayur.
When a devotee gets liberation, he becomes free from material contamination and engages as a servant of the Lord. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.6. Muktir hitvanyatha rupam swarupane vyavasthit. The word swarup refers to sarupya mukti, going back home, back to Godhead, and remaining the Lord's eternal associate, having regained a spiritual body exactly resembling that of the Lord, with 4 hands holding the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. The difference between the mukti of the impersonalist and that of the devotee is that the devotee is immediately appointed an eternal servant of the Lord, whereas the impersonalist, although merging in the effulgence of the Brahma Jyoti, is still insecure and therefore generally falls again to this material world. Aruhya krachena param padam tat pateta aho adho nadrata yusmad angraha. Bhag 10.2.32. Although the impersonalist rises to the Brahman effulgence and enters into that effulgence, he has no engagement in the service of the Lord, and therefore he is again attracted to materialistic philanthropic activities. Thus, he comes down to open hospitals and educational institutions, feed poor men, and perform similar materialistic activities, which the impersonalist thinks are more precious than serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anadatra Yushmad Anhagraha. The impersonalists do not think that the service of the Lord is more valuable than serving the poor man or starting a school or hospital. Although they say Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Brahman is real and the material world is false, they are nonetheless very eager to serve the false material world and neglect the service of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What is being mentioned really is that when a devotee gets liberation, it's not that he gets merged into this nature and things like that, right? But he becomes free from material contamination and engages as a servant of the Lord in Vaikuntha Lok, is what is mentioned. Yeah.
So I have a question here. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
So it says that a person who, in the material world is, say, opening hospitals, educational institutions, working for the people, how, how is that distinguished? That's also serving the Lord in some way or the other, right? It is trying to say
Yeah.
that, that is not.
Basic. Yeah. And so this is, yeah, and that's true. It's all good causes, right? So I think it's really good cause to do the donations, right? To feed the hungry and to do all those things, right? Those are good causes. But what is being mentioned is some people, like what is being mentioned, impersonalists, right? They think you don't need to be a devotee, right? You don't need to do the prayers. You don't need to serve the Lord, right? If you just serve this, then you will get, you'll do good karmas. So what happens is you will do good karmas and you will get good results, right? So you do the good karmas which are like helping everyone and all that. You'll get good results out of it. You lead a good life. But what is being mentioned is that this is still a materialistic life, right? So all will happen is you will go and get the next birth. Maybe you'll born in a very rich family, very famous family, or you'll do some wonders. But again, this does not end the death, the birth, the old age and disease, right? So the materialistic world, you are still circling around. So what is being mentioned is the impersonalist thing, just doing this is good enough, but it is not. If you serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only you will do that, all these other things will follow anyways, right? So you can provide lunch to someone once, then again, he has to work. So it is not saying don't do this. It's all good activities. Good activities will give you good karmas, good results. But at the end of the day, what is the goal of a human life is what this is talking about. Yeah, make sense?
Yep.
That's it. And that doesn't mean you got to stop doing all those things. Those are all great things to do. But the most important is the devotional service, which is Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Atma Nivedanam, Dasham, Sakyam, right? Those are different ways of doing the devotional service. And by doing the devotional service, we'll help the whole world anyways. So that's what is mentioned. Yeah? Anisha?
एतन् महाराज तवेरितो मया कृष्णानुभावो गजराजमोक्षणम् स्वर्ग्यं यशस्यं कलिकल्पशाम्पहम् दुःस्वप्नाशं कुरुवर्य शृण्वताम्. My dear King Parikshit, I have now described the wonderful power of Krishna as displayed when the Lord delivered the king of the elephants. O best of the Kuru dynasty, those who hear this narration become fit to be promoted to the higher planetary system. Simply because of hearing this narration, they gain a reputation as devotee. They are unaffected by the contamination of Kali Yuga and they never see bad dreams. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so what is being mentioned here is my dear King Parikshit, and who is saying this?
Sukhdev Goswami.
Sukhdev Goswami. Yeah, Sukhdev Goswami is the one reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. He's saying that I have described you the wonderful power of Krishna, right? Krishna Anubhava. Yeah, in the form of Gajaraj Mokshanam. We saw the whole story and the stuti and how and Gajendra gets mokshed, right? But what he's saying on top of it, Sukhdev Goswami is saying that, or best of the Kuru dynasty, that is the Parikshit Maharaj, those who hear this narration, right? Those who hear this story, what happens? They are also fit, right? They becomes eligible to be promoted to the higher planetary system. Yeah, and it says that simply because of hearing this narration, this is Shavanam, right? Remember, one of the devotional services, Shavanam, that is hearing, right? They gain a reputation as devotees. they are unaffected by the contamination of Kali. Yeah, says here, Kali, Kalmash, Apham. Yeah, not impacted by the contamination of Kali. Don't see the bad dreams, is what Sukdev Goswami Ji is mentioning. Ajay?
Yathanu kirtyante yet takshes yaskama dujatayah shuchayah prat ruthathat du swapna prashu pashante. Therefore, after getting up from the bed in the morning, those who desire their own welfare, especially the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and in particular the Brahmana Vaishnava, should chant this narration as it is, without deviation to counteract the trouble of bad dreams. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna says, Pradharutha, every morning should chant the Gajendra narration. What is mentioned? Let's read this first prayer, Rinaji.
Every verse in this Vedic literature, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, is a Vedic mantra. Here the words Yatha Manokrityanti are used to recommend that this literature be presented as it is. Unscrupulous persons, however, deviate from the actual narration and interpret the text in their own way with grammatical jugglery. Such deviations are to be avoided. This is a Vedic injunction supported by Sukdev Goswami, one of the Mahajanas or authorities. He says, Yathanu Kirtayanti, one should recite the mantra as it is, without deviation, for then one will be eligible to rise to the platform of all good fortune. Sukadeva Goswami especially recommends that those who are Brahmanas, Suchaya, recite all these mantras after rising from bed in the morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I think we are going to pause here. So many time. We'll continue reading this Adhyaya tomorrow. And so today we are again going to hear the whole Gajendra Stotram, right? How the prayers are done by yeah, so we'll hear all the shlokas.
Shri Gajendra Uvacha Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai Yata Etacchidatmakam Purushayadi Bijaya Pareshaya Bhidhimahi Yasmin Nidam Yataschedam Yenedam Yaidam Swayam Yosmat Parasmat Cha Parastam Prapadye Swayam Bhuvam Yasvatmanidam Nijamayayaarpitam Kvachit Vibhatam Kvachatatthirohitam Aviddhadrikshakshyuhayam tarikshate Sa Atmamulo Vatumam Paratparaha Kalena Panchatvamitešu Kritsnasho Lokeshu Paleshu Cha Sarvahetushu Tamastadasit Gahanam Gabhiram Yastasya Varebhi Virajate Vibhuhu Nayasya Deva Rishayah Padam Vidur Jantuh Punah Korhati Gantumiritum Yadhanadasya Kritibhir Vicheshtato Duratyayanu Samavatu Vidrukshavo Yasya Padam Sumangalam Vimukta Sangha Munaya Susadhavaha Charantya Pratama Pranambane Bhutatma Bhuta Surudas Samegatihi Na विद्यते यस्य च जन्म कर्म वा न नामरूपे गुणदोष एव वा तथापि लोकाप्ययसम्भवाय या स्वमायया तान्यनुकालमृच्छति तस्मै नमः परेशाय ब्रह्मणेऽनन्तशक्तये अरूपायोरुरूपाय नम आश्चर्यकर्मणे नम आत्मप्रदीपाय साक्षिणे परमात्मने नमो गिरां विदूराय मनसश्चेतसामपि सत्त्वेन प्रतिलभ्याय नैष्कर्म्येन विपश्चिता नमः कैवल्यनाथाय निर्वाणसुखसंविदे नमः शान्ताय घोराय मूढाय गुणधर्मिणे निर्विशेषाय साम्याय नमो ज्ञानघनाय च क्षेत्रज्ञाय नमस्तुभ्यं सर्वाध्यक्षाय साक्षिणे पुरुषायात्ममूलाय मूलप्रकृतये नमः सर्वेन्द्रियगुणद्रष्ट्रे सर्वप्रत्ययहेतवे असताच्छाय योक्ताय सदाभासाय ते नमः नमो नमस्तेऽखिलकारणाय निष्कारणायाद्भुतकारणाय सर्वागमाम्नाय महार्णवाय नमोपवर्गाय परायणाय गुणारणिच्छन्नचिदुष्मपाय तत्क्षोभविस्फूर्जितमानसाय नैष्कर्म्यभावेन विवर्जितागम स्वयं प्रकाशाय नमस्करोमि मातृप्रपन्नपशुपाशविमोक्षणाय मुक्ताय भूरिकरुणाय नमोलयाय स्वांशेन सर्वतनुभृन्मनसि प्रतीता प्रत्यग्दृशे भगवते बृहते नमस्ते आत्मात्मजाप्तगृहवित्तजनेषु शक्तये दुष्प्रापणाय गुणसङ्गविवर्जिताय मुक्तात्मभिस्वहृदये परिभाविताय ज्ञानात्मने भगवते नम ईश्वराय यं धर्मकामार्थविमुक्तिकामा भजन्त इष्टां गतिमाप्नुवन्ति किं चाशिशोरात्यपि देहमव्ययम् करोतु मेदभ्रदयो विमोक्षणम् एकान्तिनो यस्य न कञ्चनार्थम् वाञ्छन्ति ये वै भगवत्प्रपन्नाः अत्यद्भुतं तच्चरितं सुमङ्गलम् गायन्त आनन्दसमुद्रमग्नाः तमक्षरं ब्रह्म परं परेशम् अव्यक्तमाध्यात्मिकयोगगम्यम् अतीन्द्रियं सूक्ष्ममिवातिदूरम् अनन्तमाद्यं परिपूर्णमीडे यस्य ब्रह्मादयो देवा वेदा लोकाश्चराचराः नामरूपविभेदेन फल्ग्या च कलया कृताः यथार्चिषोऽग्ने सवितुर्गभस्तयो निर्यान्ति संयान्ति असकृत्स्वरोचिषः तथा यतोऽयं गुणसम्प्रवाहो बुद्धिर्मनः खानि शरीरसर्गाः स वै न देवासुरमर्त्यतिर्यन् न स्त्री न षण्ढो न पुमान् न जन्तुः नायं गुणः कर्म न सन्न चासन् निषेधशेषो जयतादशेषः जिजीविषेनाहमिहामुया किम् अन्तर्बहिश्चावृतये भयोऽन्या इच्छामि कालेन न यस्य विप्लव तस्यात्मलोकाभरणस्य मोक्षम् सोऽहं विश्वसृजं विश्वम् अविश्वं विश्ववेदसम् विश्वात्मानमजं ब्रह्म प्रणतोऽस्मि परं पदम् योगरन्धितकर्माणो हृदि योगविभाविते योगिनोऽयं प्रपश्यन्ति योगेशं तं नतोऽस्म्यहम् नमो नमस्तुभ्यमसह्यवेग शक्तित्रयायाखिलधीगुणाय प्रपन्नपालाय दुरन्तशक्तये कदिन्द्रियाणामनवाप्यवर्त्मने नायं वेद स्वमात्मानं यच्चक्त्याहं धिया हतम् तं दुरत्ययमाहात्म्यं भगवन्तमिदोऽस्म्यहम् हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
बोलो गजेंद्र मोक्ष स्तोत्रम की जय. Right, so full compilation of the Gajendra Moksha prayers. Cool. We'll continue reading this tomorrow 9:30. Yeah. So Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.